Let's talk about all of this now with our legal experts. We have Ellie Honig and Jennifer Rogers with us. Jennifer, does this special counsel announcement indicate anything about Trump's chances of being indicted?
Well, Brianna, I think that it means that they're ramping this thing up. I mean, you wouldn't bother appointing a special counsel if they had determined that they weren't going to charge him and they were just going to wind it down over the next weeks and months. So it's certainly not 100% certain that they will charge him, but they're pushing ahead. They're issuing subpoenas, and this definitely means that there is at least a good chance that ultimately there will be charges filed.
Ellie, Trump's response to this was to say, I announce, I announce I'm running, and then they announced that they're going to do this with the special counsel. You heard the attorney general making it clear that, yes, that was the consideration, but in a way it was to take it out of this political mix. What do you think of the timing here?
Well, Bree, the whole point of doing this, of appointing a special counsel, is to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest. And according to the Attorney General, Donald Trump's official announcement that we heard earlier this week, that was the trigger. And he said, we essentially can't have a scenario where you have me, Merrick Garland, as Joe Biden's Attorney General, investigating somebody who is likely or potentially going to be running against Joe Biden in 2024. But the response is exactly what we could have expected. We're already starting to hear it from Donald Trump, which is essentially, if this is a conflict of interest now, why wasn't it a conflict of interest when this started over a year ago? It's not some surprise that Donald Trump's running. He's long been considered a front runner. And so I think we're hearing from Trump, and we'll hear from others who support him. Essentially, DOJ is almost admitting that what's been done up to now potentially has been subject to a conflict of interest, and they're only addressing it now, but they may argue it's too late.
Jennifer, what do you think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, listen, I don't think you can expect a special counsel to be appointed at the outset of an investigation before you really know what you have as you're gathering facts. I mean, Ellie's point is well taken. We're certainly going to hear those arguments from the Trump team. But I think that Merrick Garland has been so deliberate about everything that he's done, so thoughtful, and they really have bent over backwards in all of these matters to be fair to the president, to give him more process, frankly, than anyone else would have gotten. I mean, look how the search at Mar-a-Lago was handled. And so, I think this is another step in Merrick Garland's attempts to be more than fair to the former president. And I think the special counsel is part and parcel of that practice. So I think after all is said and done, it should be said that he is treating this about as carefully as he can.
When Robert Mueller was announced as special counsel, I mean, everyone, of course, knew who he was. And here, when Jack Smith is announced, it's interesting, Ellie, a lot of people don't know who he is. He's not a very well-known figure. And I wonder if that was maybe on purpose.
Oh, I'm sure it had to be deliberate. The special counsel regulations that the person has to be somebody from outside of the federal government now, which Jack Smith is, and somebody with a strong reputation for independence. If this was somebody who was already well known, there would be a book on the person one way or another. Now, I am quite certain that Donald Trump and his lawyers are digging into Jack Smith right now and looking to see if he ever donated $5 to either political party or went to a fundraiser or anything like that. But I think it was a smart move. The whole point here is to create at least an appearance of independence. And so if you can get someone who is both essentially anonymous, not well known in the public, but also has the background that Jack Smith has the resume. He's been a state prosecutor, a federal prosecutor, a war crimes prosecutor over many decades. I think that's exactly what you should be looking for in a special counsel. And
we know the CNN reporting on this, sources have been telling our reporters, Jennifer, that Trump's legal team has been dreading this. And I wonder, if you were a Trump lawyer, besides digging up Oppo on Jack Smith, what would be your next course of action here?
That's a great question. I mean, this obviously has been ongoing for some time, this investigation and all of its various tentacles. So I don't know what they're going to do specifically. I think they'll want to see who joins the team, if Smith brings in other people from outside of government, or if he just kind of adopts the prosecutors who have already been working on this. But they're going to have to shift their focus a little bit, because he's going to come in. It'll take a little time for him to get up to speed. And then he says he's full steam ahead without some of the same concerns and ideas towards deference, maybe, that Merrick Garland and his team have had. So I see why they're worried about it.
Ellie, what would you do if you were a Trump lawyer right now?
I would handle this like any other criminal prosecution. I mean, Jack Smith, now as independent counsel, as special counsel, has the same powers that any assistant U.S. attorney or any DOJ prosecutor has. I would tell my client to be quiet, to stop talking, to make no public statements. We know lawyers have tried that. We know that's not going to work with Donald Trump. One thing I would try to do though, is establish contact with the special counsel. This happens quite a bit. People who are in the crosshairs of an investigation establish working relationships with the prosecutors who are investigating them. You can try with the ultimate goal of trying to convince the prosecutor it's not a good idea to charge me. That happens all the time. So I look to do it that way as well.
Ellie and Jennifer, thank you so much for helping us make sense of what's a very big development today.